Welcome back to our podcast, Sprinkle with Hope. Today are going to be talking about motivation. I found an interesting quote by Zig Ziglar. He was an author and a motivational speaker, and he puts a little humorous spin on this. But so what he says is, people often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. I thought that was really fun that he puts a fun spin on motivation. Often people talk about, well, motivation doesn't last every day. That's exactly true. But we have to constantly be focused on that, or else, like bathing, we might become stinky and so forth. And once we wash ourselves, then we'll be fine. So the number one way to stay motivated in my mind, and this might sound weird, is to take care of our body. What do I mean by that? Think about it this way. How motivated do you feel when you have a high fever? How motivated do you feel when you have a stomach flu, or when you're not feeling very well, even when you have a headache? If you're like me, you don't feel very motivated in those cases. So taking care of our body will allow us to stay more motivated in the long run. So if we exercise, if we really take care of our body and we feel good about our body, then I think that's one way, the number one way in my mind, how we can stay motivated. Again, if we're taking care of our body and we get up in the morning and we feel good about who we are and where we are with our body, our minds will follow that. So I just wanted to start with that light humor. And then in my mind, one of the best ways to motivate ourselves is to take care of our body, exercising and doing those things.
I love that, Shane, and I agree. I think taking care of our body is a, a beneficial thing that sometimes we take for granted.
Yep.
So I wanted to start with this quote by Vince Lombardi, who was an NFL coach for a long time, really well known in the NFL community. But he said, "The man on the top of the mountain didn't fall there." And I think so. So as we're talking about motivation, right? Like if you're going to hike a mountain, you don't just like come falling out of the sky and automatically land on the top of the mountain, right?
Yep.
You take steps, you take actions to get to the top of the mountain. So there's a couple of cool things that I found in doing some more research on motivation, because this is our second time that we've talked about motivation. We just thought it'd be a really good thing to talk about. But there's this thing called the Ulysses Pact, and it was named after the clever hero of the Trojan War. And the idea behind it is to help you make a choice right now when things are easy to accomplish the thing that is hard later. So let me give you an example. This it's kind of a weird example, but it's a good example. And it's this: write your friend a series of $20 checks, and every time you don't show up for, say, a workout or an exercise routine, and you don't meet those goals you want to accomplish, they can cash one of those checks. So it's easy to write the checks, right? In the beginning, it's an easy thing to
Yep.
do.
Yeah.
But having your friend cash them, right? If you missed it 10 times, wow, that's going to add up to be a large sum of money. And this is just an example, but that's the idea behind the Ulysses Pact. You do something right now that's easy, or when it is easy, so that when the thing becomes hard, you've already got your mind made up, right? And um, you're not gonna have those stumbling blocks. So that's just one of the things that I came up with. The other one is called chunking. This is a common psychological technique, and so the easiest put is it's breaking things down into small steps instead of big, huge steps, right? And so you do things in chunks of time, and chunks of uh, energy or motivation or whatever it is. Do the small things and then move on to the next thing. Do a small thing, move on to the next thing. So breaking it up into chunks. Um, so that's kind of what I wanted to start with, was those two things. I got plenty more to go today, but so excited to talk about motivation. I love it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to your first the Ulysses thing. I had seen that, and I'm volunteering for anybody who wants to write me $20 checks. I'm happy to take all those. I won't necessarily cash them all in one day, but I'll spread them out. So it's interesting. Jason and I were talking just before we went live. When we first started this podcast, we would gather some content, gather our thoughts separately, and then we would go over what we had. And we just found that we never had the same quotes, the same anything. And now we just run with it. We have our own thoughts and ideas and quotes that we want to share. This episode is no different. You know, I would tend to believe that we see the same stuff. We just things hit us certain ways, and so that I think you get us raw when we just roll with it and you see who we are. So going back to motivation, you know, we really should start simple. Jason and I will talk often about taking action and doing something in life. And if you don't quite feel motivated, take one small teeny step. That is a step moving forward. That will hopefully allow you to get more motivation. And you just have to take one step. It doesn't have to be large. It's simply doing something. So start simple. Don't get overwhelmed by all everybody else. In fact, don't even compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to you. And I often talk about reducing the noise around us. And when I say that, I mean, there's so much going on around us everywhere we are. If you can reduce or eliminate that noise that's around you, those distractions, you're going to be better off. You just will. You're going to be more focused in your mind and your body, that you can focus on motivating yourself and taking another step, or maybe taking 2 steps today. So I would encourage all of us to just drown out that noise as much as you can, all that stuff that's going on around you, so you can focus on really what you want to. Play music that energizes you. Music is a great way to motivate you. It can get you going. You know, I like the hip hop, the R&B stuff that just moves my body. Like I just naturally move. And so if you aren't feeling quite as motivated, then move your body and dance like Jason is right now. And remind yourself why you're doing the thing that you're doing. Often I think we forget why we're doing certain things. And so maybe in some cases our friends or our family are motivating us to do something, and those might be the wrong reasons. So it has to come from within you. But remind yourself why you're doing those things, and then I think you'll be so much better off. And then celebrate yourself. Celebrate those small steps that you take. That we all need that encouragement, and there's nothing wrong with celebrating when you do something that's good. A quote by Theodore Roosevelt, who was a president of the U.S. Back in the day. He says, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." And I honestly believe that. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. So it's simply believing in your mind, and you are almost there. And then just taking those other small, simple steps to get to where you want to be.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Shane, because that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about as well, is the positive reinforcement,
Yeah.
which is that, a common trick used to help keep you motivated. And that is to just, obviously give yourself, the awards of when you get those little wins, right? You get those little wins, you make those little steps, and award yourself in some way, whether that's, I want to go for ice cream, or I want to, whatever it is that that will award you for that win. I wanted,
Yeah.
so I want to kind of take everybody through a little exercise here, and maybe you could play along with me, Shane, since you're listening. But I want you, if you can, and you're in a place, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to visualize yourself going to the refrigerator. Okay. So here you are going to the refrigerator, and inside you find a nice, big, huge, juicy lemon, right? So can you picture that lemon in your mind? Okay. Now I want you to grab the lemon, pull it out, and it's just so plump. You can almost feel the juices almost flowing out of it. You put it on the counter, you grab a knife, and you cut this juicy lemon open. And now it's just the juices are squeezing out. And you cut it into small chunks and you take a bite out of this lemon. Now, Shane, I want you to tell us, are you tasting it? Can you physically taste that? Like as I'm saying it, can you taste the
I
lemon, the
can't
tartness?
actually. Yeah, my mouth was totally watering while you said that. When you said, "Now take a bite," totally
In your
got.
you got
Yeah,
it. You felt it,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
Now here's the point that I want to make. The point is that I want you to visualize your accomplishment, you accomplishing that goal. That's the first part of this. The second part is that again, your mind doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is made up. Your imagination,
Yeah,
because you could taste the lemon even though you didn't have one physically in your hand. So your mind
right.
didn't know the difference between the two. So that's the point that
Yeah,
I want to make, is that when you visualize something in your mind, your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's made up. And so if you can visualize it, visualize you having that thing, you can simply have it. And I think it goes back to your quote, right?
yeah,
That Theodore Roosevelt said, is that if you can visualize it, you're already halfway there.
yep.
And so I wanted to take you through that little exercise to see that if you visualize it, you can have it. And two, that that thing can keep you motivated, and your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's made up.
Yeah, that's awesome. That really was a tasty lemon. I could taste it. So one thing I want to mention is focus on your present reality. So again, we love quotes and we love these scenarios that we're running through, because when you visualize it, it sort of comes to life, right? So for example, let's say that you're in a job and you don't like it at all. You wake up every day and you don't really like going to work, but your goal is to start your own business. So you have a goal, you have a job. Now think about it in these two scenarios. How different will you act in these two based on your goal of owning your own business? Scenario one, you wake up, you go to your job that you don't like, you come home, you read a magazine or watch TV until it's time to go to bed, and you go to bed and you wake up tomorrow and you do the exact same thing every day. Okay. Scenario two, you wake up early, use that extra hour to work on your goal of starting your own business. You go to work, you come home, you watch a little TV, and you go to bed early so that you can repeat the process every day. Now, really, I don't have to ask you, but in what scenario are you going to feel more motivated to start your business and reach your goal? Of course, it's number two.
Right.
Again, you have the same job, you have the same time, but in scenario two, you're waking up a little bit early to reach your goal of starting your own business. So you're changing your mindset to start the day, motivating yourself. I really want to get to own my own business. So you research how you can get there. And chances are in scenario two, you're going to get there much faster than you will in scenario one. You're also going to have the same job that you have for a while until you can start your own business, but you're going to be more motivated with your mindset when you go to work. The job isn't going to change, but your mindset will. Again, if you think about it in your mind, you're halfway there. Uh, you can also ask questions. If maybe to motivate yourself, you can ask yourself questions. How can I have more fun doing this? So if you're like me and you don't particularly like exercising, which I don't, how can I have more fun doing this? And maybe that is going back to music and turning on the music really loud. So that will help me to have more fun. What is good about it in this situation? I believe that in most situations you can find good. So think about it that way. What good can come out of me exercising every day? Well, I could be more healthy. I could be more happy about my body and those type of things, and that's going to lead to more motivation. How can I continue moving forward? So taking those small, simple steps. If I'm just moving forward, then I'm moving forward. It doesn't matter how fast or how quick or any of those things. I just have to be moving forward. And then what's the next best step that I can take? So in my case, I don't like to exercise, but maybe I ask my wife, hey, can you exercise with me? So we hold each other accountable or something like that. Just start asking yourself those questions that will allow you to take those steps moving forward.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm all about small steps, and so I think that way you can accomplish the bigger thing, right? Um,
Yeah.
so one of the things I wanted to talk about was gentle self-talk, and so what is self-talk to begin with? That's what you're telling yourself, and so what I mean by gentle self-talk is don't beat yourself up all the time, right? We're going to have failures in life. That's a given. And so don't sit and beat yourself up all the time for not accomplishing that thing, or, oh man, I didn't stick with that goal. And so, I'm dumb or whatever it is. Don't tell yourself that, I mean, we've had a couple of people on here that are great singers and stuff like that, and great artists, right? I'm not particularly talented in singing, but I don't sit and bash myself all the time for not singing well, right?
Yeah.
I just know that I still will sing regardless of whether I'm good at it or not. I'm going to keep working on it, and hopefully at some point in my life I get better at it, right? If I continue to just work on those small steps and better my voice or whatever it is. So
Mm-hmm.
gentle self-talk. Michael Jordan, an NBA superstar, said this: some people want it to happen, some people wish it would happen, others make it happen. And I thought that was so good because it it takes us to ownership of the things that we want to have happen in our life, right? And if you want it to happen, you're going to make it happen. Otherwise, I put a good quote up on our Facebook page, and it was, you're either going to find a way to make it happen, or you're going to create an excuse, right? And something to that effect.
Yep.
And so I totally believe that. I think that we're either going to find a way to do it or we're not. There was this cool strategy called the Seinfeld strategy. This was a strategy that was created by the comedian Jerry Seinfeld, and he said it's simple as this: take a large calendar of the year, and for each day you accomplish your goal, take a red marker and mark a huge X on the calendar that you completed that thing, whether it's working out or whatever it is. And what the strategy is that as you do that every day, you start to create a chain of X's on this large calendar, and it'll help motivate you to keep the chain going so you don't break the chain, and thus you accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish, whether it's like 5 days a week you want to do this, or whatever that be, or every day you want to wake up early, bing, mark an X, right?
Yeah.
One of the other things that I thought was pretty cool, it's called the Bumpy wagon plan, and I thought this was really interesting. So we've often heard failing to plan is planning to fail, right? You probably heard that as well, Shane, right? Um,
Yep. Yep.
but what the Bumpy wagon plan um, is failing to plan to fail. And so what I mean by that is you need to try to plan for the failures and what you're gonna do when those bumpy when the bumpy road comes along, right? Because you're gonna have failures, right? And so if you know those are gonna come, it's are we planning for the failure and what we're gonna do when we hit that? Are we gonna have negative self-talk, or are we gonna avoid the negative self-talk? Or are we going to contact our support partner, whoever that be, whether that's Shane, and I say, hey, Shane, here we were on this path and I was trying to do this thing and it didn't happen. So I'm just going to move on. Right.
Yeah.
So you need to plan for what you're going to do when that failure comes along. That's what the bumpy wagon plan is.
Yeah, that's when I start cashing all the $20 checks.
Exactly.
But that leads exactly into my thought when what you were talking about, the bumpy wagon, was we are all going to stumble. We are. That is part of life. Life is going to knock us down. We have to decide to get back up. That is going to happen to every single one of us. I promise you. That's part of life. But be kind to yourself when you stumble. Don't beat yourself up. Don't look at well, I have so much further to go. Be motivated by your past. Make a list of all the things that you've done that were successful, and remind yourself how far you've really come. We are going to stumble. We are. That is a fact. But don't stop or quit just because of that. Pick yourself back up and move on, and think about, what is something I can learn from this setback? We're going to have those setbacks and stumbles. So what is something that I can learn from this and move on? And then compare yourself to yourself. Don't compare yourself to anybody else, and
so
see
true.
how far you've really come. I have a quote by Muhammad Ali. He was a boxer, and some would view him as the greatest boxer of all time. And he said, I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. I loved that quote because he's admitting, I hated every minute of training. I didn't like it at all. But you know what? I didn't quit.
Yeah.
And I woke up every day because the suffer that I went through right now allowed me to be the champion that I am. And whether that be a literal champion like he was, or a champion in your mind that you're progressively moving forward, that doesn't matter, because you're all moving forward and you're taking those small steps and you're not quitting, that you're allowing yourself to suffer right now, but knowing that eventually you're going to be a champion.
I love that. What a great quote that is. Seriously, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that.
Yep.
So one of the other cool things that I found was called the Goldilocks rule, and we all know the story of the Goldilocks rule, but this is what it is. It states that humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just right, right? Like right in the middle. And so the example I kind of wanted to give was this. If you wanted to learn to play tennis, right? Shane, you want to learn to play tennis. Would you play tennis with a 4-year-old? Probably not, right? Because you would smoke them.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they aren't going to be okay at it or get better. It's that somebody who's 4 is not going to be able to swing a racket the same way you would as an adult. The same would be true that you wouldn't go play Roger Federer, right? Or
Nope.
Serena Williams, because you'd get smoked.
Yep.
And so that wouldn't be a fair fight. And so you want to find something that is kind of right at the edge of your abilities, but that you may lose, you may win. And so that way you have the ability and the challenge of possibly having one or the other. So that was a cool thing that I came across was the Goldilocks rule. I really liked it. Novelist and screenwriter Gabriel García Márquez said, "It is not true that people stop pursuing dreams because they grow old. They grow old because they stop pursuing dreams." And
so good.
I love that because I totally think that's true. I may be 40 years old, and that's, Not something I like to admit often, but um, but I really feel like I'm, still really young because I am pursuing dreams. I do have really great goals and things that I want to accomplish. And so I totally agree with that quote. Shane already mentioned Theodore Roosevelt. He was a president of the United States, but he said this: in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing, right? The next best thing is the wrong thing. The worst thing you could do is nothing at all. And that to me really hit home. It's like, we have the best decision would be to do the right thing. Next best, wrong thing. Worst thing you could do, nothing. So do something, even if it's the wrong thing. At least you're doing something.
Yeah.
Um, so the last thing I wanted to say is this: believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to accomplish the thing. Even the best athletes work hard when they don't want to, because it's the small habits that get them to that make that difference, right? It's those small things that they do. It's Muhammad Ali going in and practicing every day even though he didn't want to. It's the NBA superstar that gets up every morning early in the morning and starts shooting the ball, right, to get better. It's the Olympic athlete who continues to strive every day even though they're tired and worn out and they've had setback after setback after setback. They still believed in themselves that they could do the thing. And so that is what drives them and motivates them, is their belief in themselves. So believe in you that you can do it.